away the clock from there, but if you needed 6 points to win your season, oof, you're going to have some words for Najee. But you play to win the game, right? 30-23, Pittsburgh does just that. Behind Mason Rudolph, 18-24, 274, found his guys when he needed them. Najee found paint twice, so if you needed another touchdown from Najee, you were really chasing or needing something, but this leaves Seattle needing a whole lot, and even 8-8, but Pittsburgh 9-7, locking up 17 consecutive seasons under Mike Tomlin at 500 or better. Back in studio alongside the two-time Super Bowl champ with the Steelers, Bryant McFadden here to offer his thoughts. Mac, this is really a State of the Union, more or less. I might just get out of the way here. I know you have a lot of thoughts on what the Steelers look like right now, what they should look like moving forward, but what did they look like to you in this 60 minutes of football?
Playoff caliber team. A team that had structure on the offensive side, a team that was opportunistic on the defensive side, and a team that's playing some of their best football in the more critical moments of the season. Unfortunately for the Pittsburgh Steelers, as Joe mentioned, there's only one game left to be played, and for them to get into the tournament, the playoffs, they need to win next week against Baltimore, at Baltimore, of course, but they need a lot of help. But I can tell you this much, the energy that we're watching with the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you look at today's effort against Seattle, in Seattle, and then a week ago at home against Cincinnati, is something that the fans have been wanting for such a long time. The energy, the morale is there. Guys are having fun. You're not seeing emotions. You're not seeing guys looking like they're disgruntled on and off the football field. And they're playing the game within the game. And it starts with the quarterback. Mason Rudolph, once again, outstanding performance. I gave Mason a nickname leading up to the Cincinnati ball game last week. Mason the Great Rudolph. It stays with him once again this week. He didn't throw any touchdowns. He didn't have any miscues, by the way, no turnovers, but almost 300 yards once again. And just the flow of the ball game. I mean, he kind of got off to a little slow start. He picked things up in the second, third, in the second half. And this is a guy that has been extremely efficient. The pocket presence. I mean, he dropped a dime under duress when the pocket was collapsing to George Pickens. And, of course, George Pickens, for the second straight week in a row, he's showing up big time in the stat sheet. We saw Deontay Johnson. But outside of Mason Rudolph, if I had a hat on, I would tip it to the offensive linemen. Yeah. They did a great job and just dominated in the trenches. Najee Harris was awesome. Jalen Warren was awesome. It was an awesome performance by the Pittsburgh Steelers, going on the road in a hostile environment and coming out and taking a dub. You know, you get to sit in that chair and ask me questions sometimes about my team's quarterback situation. Yeah. It's fair. I get to sit here and ask you questions about your team's quarterback situation. The starting quarterback, week one, and on the depth chart, the kid that you're trying to develop is good to go. And they're not letting him go because of what Mason Rudolph's doing. What does the quarterback depth chart look like next season for Pittsburgh? Ooh, great question. I think it's to be determined, right? Because you still have a game left to play against the Baltimore Ravens. We don't know exactly the status of the Baltimore Ravens with who will be playing next week. But seeing how Mike Tomlin handled the quarterback conundrum this week, he went with the hot hand. Mike Tomlin is at the blackjack table. He's not walking away after hitting blackjack. He's going to keep riding with his hand. And I think, I would assume, seeing how he utilized Mason in today's matchup, he's going to utilize Mason the same way next week, barring anything drastic happening the week of prep, getting ready for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, what happens next year, it opens up the entire window of options. Because it's only been 2 starts, but if you look at how bad the offense was looking, you fired the offensive coordinator, and it's not like, it wasn't like Kenny Pickett was playing bad football, Joe, but he just wasn't connecting like Mason Rudolph is connecting currently with the guys on the offensive side. And I tell people this all the time. If you want to know if the correct move was made personnel-wise or coaching-wise, the team will let you know. The way they handle the situation. They will tell you if that was the correct move or not. I oftentimes utilize the example with the Raiders. When they fired Josh McDaniels, anointed Antonio Pierce as the interim head coach, the team showed all of us that was the right move. Exactly. And oftentimes it's the same situation where you make a personnel decision like they did when they decided to bench Mitchell Trubisky and bring in Mason Rudolph as a starting quarterback. So to be determined, but right now I'm just living in the moment. Mason the Great once again has delivered. Let's see what he can do in the Pittsburgh Steelers next week against the Ravens.
You tipped your cap to that offensive line.
Yes.
Let's tip it one more time.
Bam.
Coach Tomlin,
Bam.
17 straight seasons, 500 or better. It's simply spectacular. The floor he has built for this franchise, it's one that keeps them in